Well, we beat up the penitent one's evil exes, but unfortunately Grandma died in the process.
Aw.
The good news is he can now use that as an excuse to get out of church. He can say, sorry, can't go to church today. My grandma died.
And what's weird is that, like, just a couple of hours ago, Grandma was our 18-year-old niece. It's really weird.
I mean, they grow up so fast in Custodia. That's the thing about religion, is that you grow up really fast under it. They teach you a lot of life lessons when you're, like, under the waves of souls. Where are we?
Yeah, we're in the Soul Wave dimension.
Wait, I know that, but does it have a name? The Soul Wave dimension?
I'm sure it does. I don't remember. And there's our third and final holy wound. They are our bells of awakening, and we can, well, we're not quite yet going to the second half of the game, but we're getting there.
Oh, they'll make sure to show us that it's available, though. Oh, that feels so good. Stretching after 1,000 years.
Is it such a crick in the neck?
Wonder what that guy's looking at. Because the heavens don't seem to be watching back.
Or are they?
Oh, God. Wait, I won't say, oh, God.
Something, yeah. I think this has, you don't say, oh, God. You say, oh, miracle.
I don't want to say that either. What if it's listening?
Anyway, I think those extra tears of atonement. Yeah, I think they have something to do with the scripting. I don't really know, honestly.
Dude, we've been through so much shit.
Tras haberos humillado ante los santos rostros custodiantes.
We are a man on a mission.
Literally, a Spanish mission. We're literally on a mission.
Cruzad ahora su umbral. Bajo la férrea mirada de sus...
If we keep this up, we'll keep going to missions and we'll get our 50 mission cap. That joke is going to be funny for like one other person, maybe two. But that joke's for you, whoever you are. In order to understand every joke in this Let's Play, you need to be very well versed in Canadian rock music.
Meanwhile, I gotta say here that Deogracias seems a little bit too hopeful for a world wherein the miracle seems to have done its business. Like, over there, he's like, hey, who knows? Maybe all of the plague and suffering that's going around is our chance to show that we have the ability to fix it, huh? Huh? Maybe it's a test. And it's like, yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Well, speaking of music, last time we picked up the Zarabanda of the Safe Haven. Gameplay-wise, it's like that leaf shield from Mega Man 2. It protects you from damage, and it also attacks enemies. And I can't help but notice, but there were some collectibles that we just zoomed past by with no way to grab them.
That's pretty cool. Traditional 2D, explorable open world game stuff. I love it. We'll get them someday when we gain the ability to fly.
Yeah, unfortunately, we will have to spend some time in the Desecrated Cistern, but this is a perfect opportunity for me to talk about the Zarabanda instead. So, the Zarabanda, or Saraband, alternate spelling is Sarabande. It was a lively couples dance in 3/4 time, very popular during the 15th and 16th century in Europe, although it started in Spain. And it was one of those, crazy controversial dances that the teenagers were doing.
I can see that. I can picture it.
That might lead to some courtship and sex and, dare we say it, holding hands.
Are her ankles exposed?
Oh my God.
That's reprehensible. I can't believe that they would allow that in society at all.
So this dance, the Zarabanda, was so horny for the time that it was banned in Spain in 1583. Although, speaking of being too horny, or never mind. I have never been less horny in my life.
She's the one that's too horny, but we're helping her out with that one sword at a time. Less and less horny each time we meet.
I don't think that's what being stabbed on stream meant. I kind of overdid it.
Ah, no. I'd hate to see her OnlyFans. I guess we are her OnlyFans.
Yes. So the Zarabanda was such a scandalous dance. It was banned in Spain in 1583. But of course, there are still references in literature and other things, related to the Zarabanda. And I would like to quote here from Juan de Mariana, a 17th century Jesuit priest, who railed against the Zarabanda in his 1609 work Treatise Against Public Amusements. And you can imagine this in like your best Mrs. Lovejoy voice or what have you. A dance and song so loose in its words and so ugly in its motions that it is enough to excite bad emotions even in very decent people.
What a scathing
My kind of
review.
dance. Oh my god. Of course.
Will someone please think of the Spanish upper-class teenagers? Anyway, we are about to unlock our first real upgrade from all that tithing.
No way. We've spent basically the whole game coming back here to do this whenever we pass through. Have you been tithing everything that you can each time, or only specific amounts?
Later, I will tithe on screen, but or off screen, I should say. But for now, all of the tithing that I've done is stuff that you've seen. Later on, I'll do the other stuff in the background. So
Oh, I didn't mean off screen. I meant mechanically, as in, are you gonna make it to the end of the tithing if you don't do it every time you can?
Well, I mean, if we can't get past our tithing phase, we'll never stop being a toddler.
That's true. That's true.
Anyway, these contractors and construction guys, they work fast. The church is already looking better.
They really do. It's starting to get a little Sistine Chapel-esque in here. I like it.
Yeah, so this is a rosary that increases your attack when your bile flasks are empty. And I think you could combine it with Heart of the Holy Purge, which is there's a different one a different heart that we'll get later, which is one that increases Tears of Atonement but does not allow you to use bile flasks at all. And I think that stacks with the token of appreciation we just got.
Can I just say the name Carnal Remains of that item is an unfortunate title. This is the horniest episode.
This is also part of a side quest that I forgot to complete, so we'll do it on the second run.
Oh, you're just subjecting us to the suffering for no reason this time around.
No, the squeedly spooch has to go somewhere.
You're right, actually. It's better not to leave it in his pocket.
Is
rather.
Squiggly Spoosh some kind of cut Dr. Seuss lyric that I've never heard before?
Oh, it's from the organs episode of Invader Zim.
Ah, okay.
The one he's missing. He can never find it, no matter how hard he digs. What? So it says some projectiles here. Are those the useful ones that you don't want to get hit by, or are they inconsequential?
A bit of both columns. Anyway, this is a room that was added to the DLC. It relates to the Quicksilver we picked up in the last video. Don't pick at that scab.
Oh boy.
It's Quato!
Oh my god, I'm so glad you made that joke.
I can't believe he's in the game. That's amazing.
Turn on the reactor, Penitent One. Free Mars.
Cuán terrible condena es esta, que no entiendo su propósito por más que reflexione.
Stop poking me in the eye, asshole.
This is some kind of weird Benjamin Button thing, but it's only it's like if Benjamin Button worked on chestburster rules.
Quizás auxiliándoos pueda
Oh my god, that's terrifying.
traedme
And also explains the new Alien movies.
brotar bajo nuestros pies.
Why are people who are reversing or rapidly aging constantly asking to help us? First Viridiana, now this guy?
Potenciando de esa manera su don.
It's almost like there's some kind of theme.
Almost. Whoa!
The main gimmick with Nacimiento is that in exchange for one less bile flask, our remaining bile flasks become much more powerful.
Sangre derramada.
That's a hell of a gambit. I like that they let you play that way. There are a lot of different ways that I suppose
And
you
it
can
is
choose
permanent.
to play this.
Yeah, it is
I'm sorry.
permanent. That other bile flask is gone.
I'm sorry, it's permanent?
It is permanent.
Yeah,
Wow.
that makes sense, actually.
Oh, it does, but the amount of commitment that requires is surprising. That he can't just be like, hey, I'll just have the big old face hack the bile flask back up. It's fine. Just punch it in the head a few times. It'll cough the flask back up for you.
Yeah, so Nacimiento was added in the Stir of Dawn DLC, and that whole side quest with the Quicksilver, that was added at the same time as Echoes of Salt. In fact, back when we were in Hondo, the only reason I even went to Echoes of Salt is because I wanted the pre-dia there. Like I had no plans to actually go there. I just wanted a checkpoint.
In this kind of a game, I really don't blame you. I think it's kind of cool that your health bar has been steadily growing longer and such that you have more room for error and can just kind of go back and forth between areas as you please. Because
Yes.
in the beginning, you just kind of have to go from place to place without stopping because you're too fragile to go back. But now, look at what you got now, man.
Yeah, I mean, I always forget the name of it, but it's basically the leaf shield from Mega Man 2.
Is it the one that was called H-Bomb? Which Mega Man game had the H-Bomb?
I think it was the tie-in with Oppenheimer.
No, you damn you! This is the second video in a row that you've predicated my jokes. You're so good at it. You have seen the miracle!
I have become Let's Play host, destroyer of potential memes. And hey, back in Hondo, we had a lady who rang a bell to summon an annoying gimmick, and this lady, she summons the guys that explode on us, who we saw very briefly.
Oh, are those infinite until you deal with that?
Yes, they are.
Ah, I was assuming that while you were cutting your way through, they were coming up, out of their pre-planned spots that they hang out in. It's kind of like everyone's just hanging out here waiting for penitent ones.
Yeah, well, they always spawn in the same spots, but it is dependent on that lady ringing her bell.
Man, and the fact that they leave the skeletons behind after the explosion, that's impressive dexterity.
I remember hearing about how in the original version of the game that there was a lot of issues with incidental contact damage. For example, in that execution where I was inside the exploding guy, if this was 1.0, I probably would have taken damage there. But that was fixed in later updates.
I gotta wonder how easy those kinds of fixes are to do, depending on what engine, I guess, this was made in. Because if it was made in something like, I don't know, Unity, it would be probably pretty easy. If it were made in something like Game Maker, it would be fucking torture. Looking at the code of Hotline Miami to make mods for that game one time when I was a teenager, Hotline Miami, for example, made in Game Maker, has impossible to change code, where you affect one thing and 1,000 different levels and sprites change too. This game, maybe not. Maybe they had a plan for the ability to add downloadable content, you know what I mean? Because it was all free.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Did they talk about that before it came out? Were these like Kickstarter rewards?
I think the Kickstarter rewards are mostly like specific collectibles that shipped with the vanilla version, things like the bones, for example. I also just realized that I was hyping up the bone with the silly name. It's actually in this video. I realized it. I thought it was in the previous one.
I can safely say, though, that makes for wonderful foreshadowing. That keeps people on the hook for the next video, is for you to say, just you wait. This is going to be the funniest goddamn pun you've ever seen. It is very humorous.
While I appreciate your attempt to save me here, there is a difference between foreshadowing and making a mistake.
I guess you're right. I'm sorry. It is my natural instinct to try and cover for others, always. I am the penitent one, essentially. I'm the sorry cop.
If you don't tell people you screwed something up, they'll never know.
No, they'll
Wait a minute,
yell at
Roy
you
is
for
right.
being wrong in the comments.
Wait, Roy is completely right. We just need to never admit to our mistakes in the first place. That's brilliant. If this world had done that, it would still be completely functional.
Or I could counter with the motto of the former super best friend / Zaibatsu, which was expect nothing and deliver less.
The miracle. That's also the motto of the miracle.
I did notice this too, and that pretty much just confirms it. You are invincible when you are executing someone.
Yes. Yeah. Very deliberately.
Yeah, the mechanics seem very intentional on when they make you invincible and when they don't. Like, if you're not invincible, like, they want you to know it.
Yeah, and CJX and I talked a bit about this off camera, but there's also some limited invincibility when casting spells, which, I mean, you'll see a bit of it in this first playthrough, but it really won't become that noticeable until we get to New Game Plus.
Can you do some crazy shit? Like,
You
that
can.
crazy purple sprite beam in the previous boss fight. Could you perhaps just invincibility frame through that by throwing a boomerang?
If you're very, very careful about it, probably.
So what you're saying is it can be done. Goons, get on it. I'd love to see a GIF.
This is also a side quest item that I wasn't planning on doing. I just sort of stumbled into it.
The wounds inflicted by a broken oath rarely find healing. That's a
Yeah.
pretty brutal way to say that someone's got parent issues. Someone needs to seek therapy.
Well, while there's a bit of a quiet moment here, the name Nacimiento is kind of interesting. That's again the Benjamin Button / Quado guy that we met earlier in exchange of bile flask stuff. So Nacimiento, it literally means childbirth. Like, that is the actual name for that is the name for childbirth on Spanish Wikipedia. It's also a surname, in common in both Spanish and Portuguese. Nacimiento is also a name for a specific type of Jesus nativity scene that's common in Latin America.
Can I say that all of this seems pretty unfortunately, I'll say emphasis on unfortunately, relevant to what's happening to the guy? Like, it's one of those things where, like, a guy named Shoemaker had ancestors who were shoemakers as a profession.
Yeah, it's the Hideo Kojima naming convention of occupation emotion.
Oh, that's funny. We would be like penitent silent men.
Well, I think that kind of blunt naming is saved for like the various religious factions within the church, like how Redento, who specifically, is warping his skeleton to go to the ground, how he is a genuflecting pilgrim.
Again, but that's. I said this last video too. It's so typical of religion. It's like the thing I said about the video game tutorials. It's so typical of religion to name things after concepts. Like, we name our planets after gods. Like,
so here's another great example is actually Moses. His Hebrew name is Moshe, coming from mashava, which means to draw out from water. Because that's how that's how the princess of the Egyptian pharaoh found him. She found him in a reed basket, in the water. And so, of course, she made what basically amounts to a dad joke in Hebrew, this Egyptian princess, who definitely knew what she was doing when she said that.
And it just stuck. It just stuck and became canonized. That's amazing to me. It's like a Shakespearean fart joke that's introduced into this very serious scene. I love it.
Yeah, that is also how Jacob got his new name of Israel, which is Yisrael, wrestling God, because in a dream he successfully wrestled with an angel of God and won.
It would have to be a dream in which he did that. Like we need a sword that was granted to us by miracles in order to do that.
You would have to ask a professional Torah scholar as to whether or not as to how much of Jacob's dream was actually real. I mean, I could go on about Judaism for a long time, but that's not what this game is about. If I was doing a Let's Play of the excellent point-and-click adventure game The Shiva, then I'd have the opportunity to go off on Judaism all day. But
oh my god, that's an awesome concept for a game series. That's awesome. Blasphemous 3 should feature another pastiche of a different religion. They should just go down the line of religions and pastiche them. That is brilliant, my friend. That's
Blasphemous 3 will be about Pastafarianism and or the invisible pink unicorn.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, dude, I can't wait for the Oxygenarian one.
Yes.
It'll be a very empty game, full of hot air.
Which fake religion was it that had the logical fallacy? Oh, here it is. Here it is. McMittens the nurse. This is one of only maybe 3 jokes in the entire game. So savor it while you can.
I mean, it's amazing to me that it's actually a humorous. That's very funny.
Exactly.
Way to go, game.
Bravo.
Well, I mean, it's perfect because you wouldn't expect humor at all in this world, and so when it shows up, jokes like that hit like a truck.
It's a little bit of gold found in the cistern, you know, the shit.
This is a nightmare. What a scenario. What? Okay, see, at least whatever we're building with all of these bones is gonna have a sense of humor now. Oh, look at that Dark Souls-ass chest. Look out, it's a mimic.
No.
I mean, for real, have you ever opened a chest before in this game?
Yes, we've opened the chests of several enemies.
Yeah. Mans has a point.
And we've unspooled their contents onto the ground.
Right.
Let's be honest. None of this has been with surgical precision, but we have.
So another small bit of jank here. When you unequip the Heart of the Holy Purge, and you rise from the Prie-Dieu, your bile flasks remain empty, and you have to refill them again by kneeling once again at the Prie-Dieu.
It's an order of operations thing, and you know you got to get the flasks back before you can fill them.
Yeah, like I've been making fun of this game's jankiness for quite a long time, but honestly, like this team should be commended not just for the quality of their work, but also that this was a very small studio. At its peak, I think it had maybe a dozen employees, and most of the time they were working with 6 or 7 people. I mean, I'm not going to recommend the documentary Landing Blasphemous, just not because it isn't good, but because it is just filled with spoilers. But
watch it after this.
Yeah, watch it once we're done the Let's Play. But there is an extended sequence about one of the department heads having a mental breakdown towards the end of the crunch period. They gave him like 2 weeks off, and everyone else, like the other 5 or 6 people on the team, hauled ass to make up for that lost time. And it was just, I mean, I'm making it sound bad, but it was incredibly heartwarming. It is the only like making of documentary I've seen for video games that has spent so much time on employee mental health.
Well, you can tell that it's a dedicated team. That's what I like a lot about indie games. I like that about indie games in general, but I also like that about this game specifically, is like, you would need a cohesive team to make this game. You would need people to talk between the art designers and the writers and also the, you know, musicians and all of that. They'd need to communicate and also like each other in order to make something that didn't end up spiteful. Because that's the thing about this game. Like, maybe you folks have noticed this watching, but for all this game is so dour and somber, it's not really spiteful at all toward religion. Like, say, The Binding of Isaac, for example, by comparison, takes religion and spits in its eye. But this game, however, takes religion and says, these are the parts that should probably not be forgotten. it's quite important to remember that religion is not sanitized.
No, it's Satanized.
You did get an achievement earlier called the number of the beasts. Was that for killing
that was
666
Yeah, exactly.
enemies?
It was for killing 666 enemies, which again, I could actually relate that to another story about the Kickstarter, which, you know, at some point after they reached the amount they were asking for, the team and it's something that's in the documentary too. The team instead had a party once they were able to raise 666% of their asking offer.
Was them having a party actually like a Kickstarter backer thing? Like, hey, we will celebrate if you raise this.
I don't know. I don't think the documentary addresses that, but it was basically just a shit post, you know. Like they were already so overwhelmed by how successful the Kickstarter was, and this was just the cherry on top.
Right, like let's not bury the lead here. They raised a 666% return on their goal. That is almost 700% of what they were asking, which is in crazy good faith. Folks had so much faith in this game because look at it. It turned out just as good as the Kickstarter looked.
It really did.
Yeah, I mentioned last time that there was a puzzle involving these shockwave bells.
This is brilliant, but I can see it being a little frustrating.
You gotta time it because you need to know exactly. You need to know what the
width. You need to know the exact distance to be.
But also the lag time, because it's not instant. It's when the animation finishes that the bell locks into place.
It's true. You gotta watch the penitent one while you're pulling the lever.
There we go.
Oh my god.
And I think there's a knot of rosary rope in here. Either that or a bile vessel. Yeah, it's a rosary rope.
Worth it, though.
Yeah,
Worth
definitely.
It. Now you can pin yourself on the map.
And remember, New Game Plus, the rosary upgrades, the health upgrades, and the fervor upgrades do not carry over. Which means you have to do this puzzle every time if you want to play with maxed out stats.
Oh lordy.
That's a little frustrating. Like
I
get
know,
it, but it's a little frustrating.
understand why, but actually there is one very specific upgrade, which I will point out when we get to it, that I really wish was carried over into New Game Plus, because it would make my life so much easier when it came to like recording New Game Plus footage. But that's for another time.
Thank goodness the bats here don't knock you backward when you take damage from them.
Oh,
that that would not only be mean, it would be borderline unfair with how they just come swooping at you out of the screen.
And before someone asks, you cannot throw the ranged attack up. It is only left and right.
Oh, that
I was just about to say
what I was trying to do there.
Only. Okay, all right. This is something that I haven't really considered, actually. This reminds me a little bit of Dark Souls. Maybe this is a bit of Souls game inspiration. All of the godlike entities we've met have been bigger than human beings, which presumably we are one of. Presumably our dude is a 6'2" human being, meaning that all of the huge women with swords stuck in them and giant golden skulls have been unbelievably large in scale if you consider them realistically. There's just a race of giant people out there in the form of teleporting gods, essentially.
Anyway, whatever that was, we weren't able to reach it yet, but we will in the second run.
What? Uh-oh.
And hey, if you remember Redento? He needed a way to get across this gap. And I think we may have just solved his problem for him.
We had to traverse the entirety of the area to solve the puzzle for this man.
We sure did.
Hopefully he's not like Viridiana. Hopefully he didn't die of old age. Your silence there is a little unsettling, the Englishman. I appreciate.
He gonna be okay?
I appreciate though that even if he is okay, he's gonna have to do all of this platforming to get across.
Well, I gotta tell you what won't be okay is C1 through C8 vertebrae.
agradece vuestra
Oh, I see. He's on his way to the chiropractor.
poco me aprovecha permanecer
Gonna break his spine even further.
ir con el Padre.
This is you can tell this is an alternate universe because this is a world where chiropractors actually do good and are beneficial.
Where do you think all the spines are coming from?
Oh, did I mention what that thing is that's like hanging from his beard?
No.
It's a millstone, isn't it?
It is, I've got it in my notes here. It is a botijo, which is a water jug. Presumably a full water jug to, really help him hunch over.
I mean, at least he's not gonna... Well, no, his hands are bound. He is actually going to go thirsty. I was gonna say he won't go thirsty, but that's part of the punishment, isn't it? That water's so very close, but he can't drink it.
Yeah, Redento is another side quest that we'll be doing most of it on the second run. And it's a recurring thing where, there's a gap or, some other like a bottomless pit or something that he can't get across. We have to help him with it. I get the feeling like that is also supposed to be black comedy because as you will see, the situations he finds himself in are occasionally quite silly.
Oh, he's a reference to Siegmeyer, and how Siegmeyer is stuck behind a giant rolling boulder that he can't run past just because he's in big fat armor. He's like Siegmeyer. You always gotta help him out, but I bet you at the end of the game, he's gonna pull off his chains and turn out to have an 8-pack and dual-wield swords to help you in combat. That's my prediction, is that Redento is actually going to become like SSJ Goku by the end of this. Like the opposite of Viridiana.
The weighted vest comes off.
Yeah, exactly. He takes off the water jug, and that's his training gauntlets. See,
oh,
look,
hey, there
he's
he
fine.
is.
He beat you here.
Los amargos nos vuelven a unir, penitente. Un muro infranqueable se
Now, compared to his English voice, like, at first, I really didn't like Redento's English voice, but it's kind of grown on me. And we're going to be playing, during the second round, we're going to be playing with the English voice acting. And I'm curious as to whether you share my opinion on that.
I can't wait to hear it. The Spanish voice acting so far, I'm not able to tell the quality of it because I don't speak Spanish, but it sounds good and appropriate. They picked appropriate voice actors for the setting. So as a non-Spanish speaker, they still, in my opinion, did good. Reminds me of Max Payne 3 in that way, where Max Payne 3's Portuguese is apparently pretty bad. It's apparently pretty badly translated, but the actors are all actually Portuguese, and so they sell it.
So it's basically the opposite of what happened with Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does this game contain Mexican Spanish? I hope that at some point we fight a boss and the boss jumps in like "Un forastero!"
From what the comments from one Spanish user in the thread has said, apparently the Spanish is not only quite good, but with some characters it is quite accurate to Andalusian Spanish, that specific dialect.
That's really
Which
impressive.
again, it makes sense. The developers themselves are Andalusian.
Yes, but I also imagine they had to do a lot of research. I mean, that's very cool.
I was just about to ask. I recalled this being a Spanish studio, but I didn't want to put my foot in my mouth,
Yeah,
What?
the Game Kitchen are from Spain. This was published by Team 17, who in the 90s they published the Worms games, and now they're mostly known for like really quirky indie titles.
The Penitent one is in Worms.
That's a reference to a joke we made in our in between recording sessions. I'll have to, I don't know. Can you link me the weird fighting game that he was in? So anyway, I kind of gave up on that particular sequence. Redento's gonna have to wait until New Game Plus.
Boy, he's gonna be waiting a while.
Yeah, this is something from like 2 or 3 videos ago I forgot to mention. We picked up the blue wax from Graveyard at the Peaks. And that is a way to upgrade our fervor, and the red wax upgrades our health. And remember that candle that we saw? The lit candle that we were not able to blow out. Also, I don't know why I thought the Garda...
Yes.
I don't know why I thought the Garda Infante did not... Actually, no, wait. I'm gonna hold my tongue on correcting myself there, because there may actually be an event flag related reason for that Garda Infante to respawn. But so if we go to those candles and blow them out, it will twice over increase the size of the bead of wax. And when we equip those, it will give us extra health and extra fervor.
So you want to wait until you have a bunch of them, I assume, unless you can't do it.
There is one bead of wax, and we have to go find one per. There's like one red, one blue.
My best friends again.
So that enemy is called the Garda Infante, which is the Spanish name for, I want to say it's the Farthington. It was a specific kind of a young girl's undergarment that was in style in the 1600s.
I mean, she's wearing him as that, so it makes sense.
Anyway, so remember Shaft from Symphony of the Night? How you couldn't access the inverted castle until you beat him? Well,
yes.
We're going to be meeting this universe's version of Shaft.
At least Death didn't show up to take all of our stuff this time around.
That is true. Well, actually, no, he came in before the game even started. Where do you think all those corpses came from?
Wait, you're actually right. Death already came to Custodia a long time ago.
Hermana, que estáis ahí, aunque no pueda veros.
Oh, hey, do you recognize this guy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good, you're starting to pay attention.
No defraudaré a Crisanta. Y que un gran dolor me muerda si permito que la penitencia cruce esta puerta.
This is Inigo Montoya. We killed his father.
Prepare to die?
Say hello to Esdras of the Anointed Legion. Now, the Anointed Legion is a faction that we'll learn about later, so I won't talk about it now. I love this boss fight. It is the closest thing you get to like a rival boss.
He walks like Alucard. His walk cycle is very Alucard. That's very funny. Why? So this is one of the coolest fights so far. An actual human scale enemy?
Yeah. Unfortunately, like with the Warden of the Silent Sorrow, the best strategy is to put him into the corner and keep all the action off screen or like off to the side. I tried in this take to not do that, but yeah, also most of his attacks can be parried, except for there's one specific thing where he has energy beam sword things similar to the Cloistered Sapphire. You cannot parry those, but everything else can be parried.
He's got a little bit of everything that we have been facing so far. You know, like the lightning bolts with a tiny bit of foreshadowing and all
now,
that. Now,
this is very important. Esdras keeps talking about his sister. You want to keep that in mind because I think things will start to click once the next phase of this boss fight starts.
I was gonna say, there are a little bit more important things to focus on right now than his family tree, and we're cutting branches off of it.
I'm concerned that we've already cut that branch off his family tree by asking her 3 times to help us.
Uh-oh. Oh, I thought you were gonna say we swung our sword at his dick. Okay. Then again,
either
Spanish
joke is
Catholicism.
acceptable.
Maybe he's a eunuch.
Oh no.
Whoa!
Well, hello,
back.
sister. We've seen her before, haven't we?
Oh.
Yeah.
And there have been some mentions in the lore as well as in the game, I think, about Esdras talking to his sister as if she were still alive.
Whoops.
So this is Custodia helping us out. She adds some extra attacks. And this is strange. Custodia is supposed to be dead even before we fought her. What's going on here?
Hermana, perdonadme. Ahora cruzaré hacia el otro lado del sueño y volveré a vuestro lado.
That was a pretty familiar teleportation effect there.
I wonder what that's all about.
Hey, I know what Toronto is. I visited a friend there once.
Yeah, I live there.
Ah, you bastard! Every video, at least once.
You know, one of these days, you will steal one of my jokes, and then I will know that the teacher has become the student.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, I suppose.
But we have another bridge to cross. Hey! So with that, we have crossed the bridge of the 3 cavalries, and we are going to start the second half of the game.
I'm now blind. This is as far as I ever went. Like hell was I beating that boss. Holy crap.
Yeah, that was I mean I have cut out a number of failed attempts for other bosses coming up, and also just this one I think I only spent like 20-30 minutes on it. There are others, like the final boss took me almost 3 hours to beat.
Impressive.
Oh my god.
Admittedly, this was something I did to myself because I wanted to go in under leveled to make a bigger contrast to when we start New Game Plus. So while the game allowed me to do this, it was still my fault.
It was your penitence.
Yes. for the sin of doing low percent.
Pride is a sin. Hubris is a sin.
Low
Speed running
percent
also a sin.
Low percent is the deadliest sin of all. Speaking of which, there are the 80% speedrun in the grand tradition of Metroidvanias made by Western developers. There is a wrong warp glitch that allows you to beat the game in like 15 minutes.
I mean, I'm just imagining how it works. Like, he just decides not to become religious. It's like when Mario goes back to bed in Super Mario RPG.
It's some kind of wrong warp thing.
He wrong warps to Buddhism. Yeah.
Yeah, he wrong warps into like some kind of Shinto shrine, and he's like, I'm actually digging this.
Maybe the miracle was inside me all along. Credits roll.
Maybe
that's
the real miracle was the reincarnations we lived through along the way.
Oh God, the miracle never ends.
No,
I want off the miracle's wild ride.
This is not the miracle never happened. The miracle do happen, and I wish it wouldn't. So in addition to Canadian classic rock, you also need to be very familiar with specific memes about video games from the 2000s in order to get every joke.
To quote Canadian classic rock, he knows you're out there. Somewhere out there.
That's an excellent spot to cut.